Welcome back to Walsall Fan TV, the joy and the pain. We have the crew with us, plenty to discuss. Phil, Frank, Daz, Darren, lots to go at. First of all, we go Phil. How you feeling after the disappointment of Wembley and failing to go up?
Yeah, not great. Obviously, it's been a very disappointing week. Very disappointing end to what should have been a celebration at the end of the season. Obviously, there's a lot to pick at, and we'll get into the details of it as we go through. But yeah, my initial response is very, very disappointed. I'm still struggling to believe how we didn't get promoted from the position that we were in, and there's obviously lots of reasons for that, which I'm sure we'll get onto. But I couldn't see, come the end of January, the position that we were in. I did not think we would not be celebrating a promotion at the end of the season. I am still staggered that we haven't done it. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens next, moving forward into next season.
Yeah. Frankie, I think you'd been to Wembley previously in your younger days, but what was your thoughts on Wembley?
The nice shopping centre, nice area. That was really it. And then as soon as you get into the ground, it was terrible. Nice area. Yeah, it was a very nice area. I'd rather watch it on TV next time instead of go. To see Wembley on TV is a lot better.
The thing, I think the singing that has been sort of key for Walsall all season. I think in such a big stadium, it was quite fragmented, wasn't it? So sort of like clashes. We could have done with a conductor, I think. Our Swedish friend Pars was sort of saying we should have had a conductor to coordinate the singing, perhaps.
It's quite big, and the club didn't give us anything really to shout about in that first, even second half. So they had got a good clean off shot. There might have been a lot more louder noise, if you can see from the Wimbledon fans. They were quite loud at some points of it, but we weren't loud enough because we're not supposed to be the ones that we're not supposed to be the ones that make them play well. Them playing well is supposed to make us have a lot of noise. So it's not really. It's a bit disappointing, but it's a big stadium. Play disappointing. We see it this season. If you play disappointing, the fans aren't really going to get behind the players constantly. Yeah. It's just a bit.
You need that catalyst, don't you? You need that catalyst to sort of get things going and get the excitement. And it was such a poor first half. Go to Daz. Given we'd done particularly well against possession-based teams, do you think we set up all wrong, knowing that we're going to be playing Wimbledon, who were not going to be playing possession-based?
I think it worked that well against Chesterfield and Crewe, to be fair, and that he was probably right to kind of give him another go. I think I'd have done the same thing. But I think I tweeted last Monday night and last Tuesday. That pitch is so big. That box midfield was in different postcodes at times. Yeah. Frankie's talking about the shopping centre, and while Sturk was wide on the left, Jellis was in Marks and Spencer's. It's they were so far apart at times, and Wimbledon exploited it.
Yeah. The thing is, I thought because Wimbledon are good defensively, being spread out on a bigger pitch, that would have been a problem for them, but it didn't seem to bother them in the slightest.
Even the length of the pitch was an issue because we like the long ball, and with all due respect to the players that we got, there ain't many Gerrards and Lampards in terms of touch and quality. When you're knocking a 30, 40-yard ball that's probably 60% likely to hit your man, suddenly you're hitting a 40 or 50 or 60-yard ball that's 30% likely to hit your man. And just the general size of the pitch, I think, really caught us out. I thought, kind of mid-percentage balls suddenly become low percentage balls, and we never got our head around that.
No, I think that's fair enough. Darren, there's been talk about sort of the plan B I think the way we sort of set things up, and with the bench, we haven't really got any attacking options to try and change. Have still no DJ. How would DJ have done now on such a big pitch?
Well, I think it's just having the option, to be honest with you. That was I mean, I would have even, my thoughts on Josh Gordon, but I would have even had him over Comley on the bench. Like, if you're in a game where you going to Dazzy's point about the pitch being big, I think we all said before that playoff final, I think we said it on the fan chat, having Jammer up front on his own, a bloke who can't run, right, on a pitch with no one around him, right? Because, as Dad said, they're in different shopping areas. Right, I thought it was mad, and there was no way Jammer. There was no way Jammer was going to last the whole game. We know that. So then you're reduced to having one striker on the bench, right? That's the only change that you can make. So if we had to be in a position where we were chasing the game, there was no way we could bring on 2-3 strikers and throw the kitchen sink at it. I thought it was an unbelievably poor decision not to have DJ or Gordon on the bench, to be honest with you. Or even Wheatley. It's a one-off game. You've got to go for it. Like, there was a high probability there would be a time in that game when we had to throw the kitchen sink and go for it, and we had just a like-for-like replacement with Mamanchi. I thought it was unbelievably poor decision, personally. And just to say, I watched the game in Menorca, right, as I said on the last one, and I just sat there, just like, I could not believe how bad it was, especially that first half. And how Jammer stayed on. I thought it was unreal.
I thought both teams were poor, to be honest.
Yeah, you wouldn't look at Wimbledon and think, oh, these are, but they just did a job on us, I think. And I think the one statistic from that first half, which I read, was that since Opta had been recording statistics about playoff finals, we're the first team since they've been making those recordings to not have a shot in the first half. And in a playoff final, and that tells you everything about our striking options, which I'm sure we'll get onto later on today.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're going to cover the released, retained list and comings and goings and that sort of stuff. Comment from some Scott. Oldham. Did Oldham finish the job then? Manny Month helped them along the way, didn't he? Did that finish 1-0? Did he? I haven't seen.
3-2.
Oh, 3-2 in the end. Right then, so we welcome Oldham back. Have you seen the board statement? Phil, what do you think of the statement from the board?
Well, I think bored is an apt name for it because I got thoroughly bored about halfway through reading it. To be honest with you, Simon, I don't particularly care what they say at the moment. Nothing they can say at this stage will change how I feel about the way the season ended. But they had to do it. They had to put something out. I appreciate that, and I think it's been quite heavily criticised by lots of people for the tone and the content of it. But I'm much more about action than words. The words don't mean anything to me. It's what happens next. It's what they do now. I think we'll no doubt get onto Matt Sadler and whether we think it's the right thing to keep him. But it looks as though that's going to be the case. I think they could have got back on side with a larger majority of the fan base had they decided to part company with him. I think that would have been a fairly bold decision based on the fact that we missed out on automatic promotion by 1 point and we lost in the playoff final. But it doesn't take away what happened in the second half of the season, and then the 19 points from 21 games that we put out at the end of the season. There's been quite a few statements lately. I know Nofo put a statement out, didn't they, which was again quite roundly criticised.
I just want to say I've got the T-shirt on if they want to sponsor the channel.
Well, I think they might be. The word is they might be the new shirt sponsors as well. But look, they put out a statement which I thought was badly timed and not very well worded.
It was very American, wasn't it?
It was, and I think Daz I saw a post that Daz put out on his social media, which basically said that we don't need anybody to tell us how we feel at this moment, and we don't appreciate being told how we should feel at this moment in time. Their words, Simon, and as far as I'm concerned, after what happened last season, they don't mean much at all. I'm much more about always been of the belief that actions speak a lot louder than words.
Yeah. Did you see the statement, Frankie?
Yeah. They're taking the only good thing is there's finally a fans forum, which has been ages since the last one, and it's a bit like when that big problem you needed that fans forum, and it was a very long time, and it's a bit shocking the club has finally realised we got to put one on for the fans, but they have to answer, and they're going to have like it's probably 5 hours, probably 24 hours of answering questions they could answer because every single fan wants them to know. And I wish they need to probably, and I think the best way they could do that statement is saying sorry. And we haven't really got an apology from this club, from Sadler or from the board, is that it needs to be an apology because there's a lot of the fan base has spent money and time to get to away trips and to get to the home trips. The cost of the players alone dwarfs what could have been compared to a lot of things. So then there needs to be an apology. And then adding up, and it's just, I know we haven't seen that apology. It's a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. Daz? You're on mute, mate.
Sorry, it's the best place for me. It's where I make the most sense.
The COVID way that was, really.
On Frankie's point about the fans forum, if I was a gambling man, I'd be lumping everything I've got on a significant signing on July the 8th. I think July the 8th, if you want a date on when we're going to sign somebody, it'll be July the 8th. Okay. In terms of the Boyd statement and the Nofo statement, I've tweeted about the Nofo statement. He touched a nerve and it's gone now. Read the board statement today. In reality, there's not a lot in it. There's a lot of words that don't actually say a lot.
Yeah.
The one thing that disappointed me was there's a lot of reflection in there, and at no point have we kind of put our hand up and said, we've got a few things wrong here, lads. There's a lot of bad luck and a lot of misfortune and a lot of this and that, but not a lot of, hang on a minute, we've self-reflected and we didn't do very well with A, B or C. And we can probably get to E or F. I've been very supportive of Trivella. I think they were a breath of fresh air when they come in. Yeah. I know a few people were sceptical. I think they've made mistakes this year, and I don't that they're learning mistakes, and I can, we're where we are. I can live with what we got and where we are and what we've done. But if you're not gonna see the mistakes you made, you're not gonna learn from them.
Yeah. Just before I come to Darren, it's the statement for me talked about sort of, yes, we put it down to experience and that, and they say that as if none of them have got any football experience and now the way the world works. What do you think, Darren?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things from the statement for me that stood out. Might be slightly conspiratorial, but or cynical. No mention of Sadler at all in the whole thing, right? Nothing. Cynical means okay, if they ditch him early next season because it doesn't go well, they can kind of back away a little bit and not be tied to a statement after the playoffs saying he's the man for us and things like that. I thought that was noticeable. Lack of accountability, I think, is what we've all kind of mentioned. I know Phil's mentioned about having actions. That's what we all truly want. I just wanted to see some sort of look, we got it wrong. And I think that would have been took the edge off it slightly, I think. I just find Sadler's post-match comments, and I just echo what Daz was just saying, it's bad luck, and Brian and Shannon at Nofo, it's all about bad luck, and it couldn't go out the way we hoped and all of this. I just wanted to see something a bit more human and, like we got it wrong. We know we're going to do better. And I think that would have made me feel like we might go into this summer with a bit more hope that they know what's wrong so they can kind of correct it. But, it's just words at the end of the day. And I hope we can sit here in a month's time and hopefully be a little bit more cheery. Sorry, Dad.
Go on, Dad.
Simon, can I just jump in?
Yeah, go on.
With Wimbledon, we at Wembley last week, we got the whole game without picking up a yellow card.
Yeah.
We never got going, and nobody had got the gumption to smash somebody just to change the dynamic of the game. And it kind of sums up everything that's happened to this football club since the day before Stoke picked the phone up and says, can we have Nath back? Because metaphorically, this club hasn't picked up a yellow card at a time when it needed to pick up a yellow card.
Yeah. There's no
It's
fight.
active, isn't it? It just seems passive to me.
Yeah.
It was quite a bland performance, and some would say that was typical of a manager that's not particularly exuberant in his discussions. Andrew Field saying, where do we go from here? I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and how can we get up for next season and feel confident about next season, given what's happened? So a change of manager or a big signing or some big sort of marquee signings will give us that bit of impetus that perhaps they'll be arriving on July the 8th, as you say. What other thing can we do to get us up? Because obviously, as fans, we're all on the floor after what's gone on. Phil?
Well, for a start off, we've got a pretty quick turnaround now, haven't we? I mean, it's the 1st of June already. The fixtures are out in, I think, 3 weeks. The first pre-season friendly is, a month and a half away. So the players are going to be back in for pre-season in a month or so's time. So because of the playoffs, we haven't got as long as we would normally have to build the squad. And obviously those players that have and haven't been up or have been offered contracts, they're going to have to come to a decision pretty quickly on what they're doing. So whatever we do, we've got to move quite quickly. I'll be honest with you, Simon, I'm as low and as disappointed as I ever have been as a Walsall supporter. I didn't think the relegation in 2003, 2004 could be topped. But I think this season has just about topped how I felt that season. Yeah. I remember that season coming back from Cardiff on Boxing Day. I think we won 1-0 at Cardiff on Boxing Day, and we were within touching distance of the Championship playoffs at that point. And the optimism around the place was brilliant. We thought we could be really onto something, and then we ended up getting relegated that season. And I was seriously low at that point when we got relegated and after that Rotherham game. But I think what's happened this season has really done me, and I think it's obvious from looking at social media that there's a lot of people that feel the same way. There's fans saying that they're not going to go back next season. They're glad they haven't renewed their season tickets, etc., etc. So something pretty big's going to happen to change that round and to get the minimum we have to do is start next season very well and go into next season with a squad of players that look like they're capable of getting the job done. Because I don't think anything other than promotion is going to satisfy next season. But yeah, I'm pretty down with it all right now. And just
we all are, aren't we? Yeah.
The thought of when the fixtures come out and looking at we're going to have to go to bloody Barrow again and Accrington again and all these places that we hope that we'd seen the back of for at least a season. I'm going to struggle to get myself as up for the start of a new season as I usually do.
Oh dear, it's frustrating, isn't it? Total embarrassment we've become, Ian Allen. The thing is, like the capitulation is gonna be with us for a long time. I think Chris Evans' statement, the statement was total PR guff and said nothing, which is fair enough, really. yeah, just a placeholder. Nothing needed to say something, but it's actually they didn't actually say anything. Can we afford to go up? Because at the moment we've got sort of 18th budget, or arguably, or allegedly, the 18th highest budget in League Two. Average wages in League One, £6,000 a week. Can we afford to go up, Frankie?
Well, we saw this season. We got the reports from last season. We lost money, whatever. This season must have made them a killer. The amount of fans that were in this season must have been like they must have a bunch of money now. And as we've seen, as you progress, the team progresses, more and more fans will come. So we're in League One, we're going to get more fans. And if we want to make money, we're going to have to get higher and higher. And sometimes they're going to have to take that hit. Maybe the first season League One, we lose a bit of money. That's the problem with next season. We might lose a lot of money next season, and then that might take too much of a hit. But if we can build a squad that we have this season that gets us promoted and then can look safe for next season, that won't cost that much if they're not on a lot of wages. Yeah. And as you say, we're on the 18th lowest wage. But it's not like that we don't have a lot of money. It's the idea that we're the 18th lowest wage because we don't sign. We like to sign because they're good on paper.
Yeah.
We don't sign because we'll spend as much money as we need to get the players we want, as we've seen. So if a player costs so much, we'll get him. But if a player costs so little, he's ours. Yeah. And a lot of them, they're really young. So you can either sell them and get a lot of money, help us back up, or these players that are young can grow and become the future stars, which then are able to play in League One. Because if they're good for League Two level and they're still young, they should be good enough for League One level.
Yeah, I think a comment's been made that I think going through the playoffs and getting to Wembley is worth $1 million. So obviously there's a big potential budget improvement from that. We refer it to Chesterfield, who lost $3.5 million in the season they went up, and they've got owners that are sort of not, I suppose bankrolling is the only word you can use, really. So put extra funds in to be able to get the progress and get you up the leagues. Trivella, have they got the desire to do that? Question for Daz. Trivella, multi-club model, bought Walsall, arguably went on and started buying other clubs before they'd really sort of done anything with Walsall, or done very little with Walsall, and then bought Droda, of course, and then Silkeborg. They're sort of buying up lots of clubs. I think if maybe I'm wrong with this, but I mean, if I was looking at a multi-club model, I'd grab my first club, I'd sort that out, get success, and then move on. But it seems like it's buy rather than sort of develop. Your thoughts?
I think a few people get confused with Trivella. I'm not knocking Trivella. Okay. Let me jump back a sec. I think we can afford to get into League One. I don't think we can afford to get in the Championship, but that's a different matter. I think the Championship will bankrupt us. But getting back to Trivella, people think Trivella are rich and they've got money. Trivella are an investment company. Their business is investing money and making a return on that money. Chucking millions of pounds at a League Two football club isn't a way for an investment company to make money. It's just chucking millions of pounds at a League Two club, as Gillingham, as you'll see. I mean, when we get to these accounts next year, or everyone's accounts next year, you'll see how much money's been lost in this division. If you throw £5 million into a League Two club, the only thing you can guarantee is you're probably going to lose nearly £5 million.
Yeah.
Trivella are an investment company, not a charity. They make their money from loaning us money, I guess, to buy the stadium and charge us interest. They're not going to pump millions of pounds into this football club, and it is about the long. They say it's about the long game. I believe it's about the long game, and I don't think that model that they've got can wait the 15 years or whatever it takes, however many years it is, to turn us around. I think they needed more than that as well. I think they were smart in terms of Drogheda. They picked a small league with a chance of European football. Is it a 10 or 12 division league and 4 of them get into Europe? You've got a good chance if you get it right. I haven't got a problem with what Trevella have done. They made mistakes, but they're trying, and we're in much better shape now than we were before.
Yeah, it's easy to sort of be overcritical with what's happened, and forget sort of like the off-field thing as definitely moved us further forward. Just that frustration. Go on, Phil.
Sorry, I totally agree with everything that Daz has just said. And for me, I know that some people might feel differently, but I don't put us not getting promoted last season down to Trevella. I put it down to Matt Sadler. I think that yes, I caveat that a little bit by saying I think they could have done better in January. I think we all agree on that. But to be honest, I quite like the general direction of travel since they've been at the club. Yes, they've made mistakes this season. I think we all know that, but and they've copped a bit of flack lately. But I personally don't put us not getting promoted last season down to them. No. I put it down to the manager.
I'm going to Darren for the next one. Partly in conflict with what Phil's just said. The January transfer window, for me, that was making deals from a position of strength to prepare us for League One, and we just didn't do that, did we?
No. Yeah, I think again we can go back to our fan cast, right? When the night before the transfer deadline, we're all talking about experience number 8. Got 24 hours to kind of make it almost a lock that we'd push us over the line. We talked about we mentioned this every single fan cast, having Earing and Hall to rotate with Lakin and Jealous. We didn't solve that problem, I think.
He brought in Alfie Chang.
He's a defensive midfielder.
When we needed midfield cover, and he wasn't fit to play.
Well, yeah, and he's a number 4 anyway. He's a number. Yeah. Sorry, he's someone who sits in front of the back 4 for me. He's not a number 8. Alfie Chang. We ended up back to the McKenzie midfield experiment, which you should listen to his interview.
Hang on, you can't knock Ossie McKenzie.
Oh, you can.
You can. Signed up by Hearts for the Scottish Premier League.
Shows you how bad the Scottish Premier League is. He described himself in that video as tidy on the ball, which I found quite amusing. But anyway, signing a reserve from Bromley. We thought to be fair, I think they brought Wheatley in, thought he would be the low answer, coming from Man United. Quickly looked at him and thought he looks raw. And then we went down the Harrison panic route, in my opinion. We needed to bring in quality, planning for next season, I think, possibly. And we just didn't do that.
I think that's the biggest mistake of all was our dealings in January. Ellis Harrison was sort of like the panic job.
I'm sure he was the panic. I don't believe this, that they were tracing it. Not for me. That's just something they're saying in interviews.
Well, he couldn't get a start in League Two with a struggling.
Well, Levi Manchi couldn't get in the Bromley team. I know they had Michael Cheek, but is that what we've? I don't know.
I understand with Levi that's a more of a long-term development.
Send him to Drogheda.
Problem, yeah. My thing. Hang on, Darren. Hang on.
Go on.
When we were struggling to get a striker in, rather than plumping for Ellis Harrison, DJT, Drawda, get back here. We need you.
I don't think he was allowed to because it was an international loan. I think, as far as I understand,
Is that why?
if it's an international loan, I don't think they can be recalled mid-season. I as opposed to what happened, obviously, with Lowe. Let's not talk about DJT. Wouldn't have been the answer, in my opinion. I just think we needed to strengthen in the key areas with an eye on next season. I think they took their eye off the ball. They thought they had a little bit of arrogance in that we had a 15-point lead or whatever it was mid-January, and they thought we could just get by and that come back and slap them in the face. Because, you know, Darius Lipswich, whatever his name is, not
Darius
even seen him.
yeah.
I mean, Hall was still injured in January.
Yeah.
So, like, we needed 1 or 2 number 8s to come in to push us over the line. Because in that formation,
hang on. And Ronan Mayer.
I
Doing
agree.
well in the National League. Why wasn't he brought back?
Because he's got some skill and he doesn't run around like a headless chicken.
He does. He's got boundless energy.
No, Simon, I would have him I'd have had him in a heartbeat. There's no way he wouldn't have fit Sadler's system, and he wouldn't track back.
Well, I've seen him play, and
I agree, Simon. I agree with you. I think Sadler doesn't like that type of player personally, and he wouldn't trust him.
I would have loved to see Ram come on at Wembley.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'd have offered a different option in those like 8 or in a 10 position or out wide.
Harrogate, Newport, Accrington, screaming out for somebody of that kind of quality.
The other way you can look at it is we've got a very decent, I think he's got the most goal involvement per 90 minutes in the entire division, kicking his heels, not on the bench.
Yeah, well, I just can't understand that. The thing is, if a manager falls out with a player and doesn't play him, all other sense goes out the window, doesn't it?
I can't explain that decision. I don't know if it was Daz actually or someone else said. I saw on Twitter was like he brought him back in for that Crew game. He was on the bench at Crew, wasn't he? When it was we could be throwing the kitchen sink sort of, and then he just disappeared again. I don't understand it. I mean, we could see from his goodbye message that he was clearly frustrated. So he would have been almost like a solution in January, but for some unknown reason, he just didn't want him or didn't fancy him.
Simon, we were talking earlier about statements from the club. I want somebody to come out and explain to me what the hell happened with Danny Johnson, because I think we're all just, we've talked about it a lot on this channel over the last couple of years. But I've never seen a player signed with such a fanfare and then just be. I think he's been treated very, very poorly, and you could see the frustration in that statement that he let out. But I want to hear somebody, maybe that the fans forum, that would be a perfect opportunity for somebody to ask that question. Somebody needs to take accountability for what's gone on with Danny Johnson, because I just find the whole thing crazy.
Well, I think the other thing as well, I think since he came on and when he scored at Doncaster, I think for the rest of the season he only played something like 27 minutes or something ridiculous.
If Danny Johnson had had 20 minutes a game from February, last 20 minutes of every game from February, we'd have gone up.
Newport away, for example, when we were trying to score that last. I'm not saying he would have, but I'm sure he would have, if you wanted a chance to fall to someone in the box in those sorts of situations, you want him. I'm not saying you have to start him, right? We get that Sadler had that system, but for an option from the bench, I think it's completely unreal that he wasn't on the bench. I find it amazing.
He played 19 minutes after the Doncaster goal. He played 19 minutes. He got 5 minutes against Port Vale, and he got 14 minutes against Barrow.
Unreal.
If the 2 goals against Salford weren't anything to tell you, the 2 goals against Salford, rescuing that game with half hour to go, if that didn't tell you that you need him on the pitch.
I understand he doesn't fit the system, but the manager had 2 full years to develop a plan B that integrated throwing somebody on who'll get you a goal in the last 20 minutes. And we never got close to finding that plan B. We were so stuck to plan A that we wasted any opportunity of a plan B. And for me, if I'm Sadler's, I'm not the first to out him, okay, but he had 2 years to come up with a system, plan B, an alternative to what he wanted to prioritise, and he didn't do it, and that is a major failing for me, a major failing.
But let's be clear. Matt Sadler is a young manager, relatively inexperienced manager, but he's got Richard O'Kelly as a mentor that's apparently there every week. He's also got Gary Waddock, who's an experienced manager as well. So he's got people around him that can be telling him. And
he's the head honcho, though, Simon. Like, he's the guy who's in charge, not Gary Waddock or Richard. I get your point about support, and you want a good support network. But at the end of the day, he's, we were told when he was appointed he was the best man for the job. So I don't buy all this. He's learning stuff.
But when Richard O'Kelly says, Oshie, you want to put him in midfield? He goes, yes, I'll put him in midfield.
I know for a fact he was told by a current manager in the Football League, what are you doing playing Ocean McKenzie in midfield? And I'll tell you at the end who that was when we go off.
Okay. Go on, Frankie.
Go to the last comment, the one about DJ when he came on the final. Two things about that final. So he has one strike on the bench. He brings on the bench Barrett, and he also brings on the bench Oshie McKenzie. We lose Harry Williams so early in that game, and that was the end of it. That's about. Why is Daniels not on that bench? That is my first question. He should have been that keeper on the bench. He comes on. I trust him more likely to get that ball cleared. We're probably 0-0 at half time. He's so much better off. And in that second half, if he had a striker, even if he only had one striker, if he has Josh Gordon, who he had on the bench before, he's a lot of space, he can run into it. He has DJ. DJ knows how to score. The ball goes across that line. DJ can slot the ball into the middle. He had
for a striker, wasn't he?
Yeah, he only had one option, and then he also takes off the captain and the defender that had been there. It was a weird 2 changes, and that was one of those spells at the end of it.
Well, I can't remember us in that final 15, 20 minutes. Like I've said it a few times, throwing the kitchen sink at it. I can't. Obviously, we had a few more long balls, but I never thought we had this concerted. It was just lamp it to the forwards. I thought it was. There's no plan B. We didn't do something like go to a back forward, push more people. We just couldn't because of the inflexibility in that striking position. So I thought it was really poor.
Yeah, it's yeah, I think we've sort of already touched on. Notably, the statement didn't make any note of Sadler, as we've already mentioned. So now public backing. Generally, they're sort of they back a manager just before they sack him, don't they? But the fact that hasn't come out, maybe the jury is still out, and maybe he's still not safe. I think
I'd be amazed, Simon, if they got rid of him. I would be amazed. I think they.
The thing is, when you've just given him a new 3-year contract. Now, I think going back in time, people were obviously looking at Matt Sadler. We were top of the league, runaway leaders, top of the league. Any managerial vacancy coming up, he was going to be touted and checked at. Which at the time, when we were doing so well, we'd the last thing we want to do is have our manager taken away. So it made sense at the time to tie him down to a contract. But obviously, the history since tells us that it wasn't such a good thing. Sadler back on probation. Let's be honest, little chance of starting well next season. We'll take one toxic atmosphere at home to seal his fate. That's not great. Daz is right. They need to hold their hands up and admit the errors they made. Sadler, I think part of his problem is he never admits when he's got it wrong, and that's what frustrates people.
Yeah,
I think he's quite a confident character, Sadler. But I mean, sometimes you have to admit that you just get it wrong, and we've heard managers do that, and it's just so frustrating.
Ben Sadler said he got it wrong. I think he was talking about shirt orders. You know, and that's one of the. No, I'm not trying to be funny here. That's one of the few times I've heard anybody involved in this football club in the last 30 years put their hand up and say, we got it wrong. So they are capable of doing it. Ben Sadler has done it. But, you know, we're where we are.
Yeah, the thing is, in January, obviously Ben Sadler, he's got a lot of good nous. He would have known that sort of like, hang on, things can change very quickly. If Nathan Lowe goes back, the dynamic can change. Why aren't we bringing in sort of more stable heads to see us over the line? But right then, I want to move on because it is quite a depressing tale. Looking at released, retained, next season, contracted for next season, Taylor Allen. Is he still going to be with us for the start of the season? What do you think, Phil?
I think there'll probably be some people putting the bid in for him at some stage. Whether we accept the bid or not remains to be seen. But there's already rumours about him going to a couple of other clubs. I don't want to get into rumours. I don't know where a lot of them come from. I have no sources myself in terms of who's going where and whatever. But I would imagine there'll be quite a few teams looking very seriously at Taylor Allen. He had a very good season last year. He was player of the season for us, hands down. And I think he's capable of playing at a higher level. I think he's a good footballer. He's adaptable. He can play different positions. So I think I would be very, very surprised if we don't have at least one sort of significant bid for him at some point during the summer.
Frankie, if a bid comes in for Taylor Allen, say 250,000 or something, which is possible, would it be sensible to cash in with him just a year left on his contract?
Not that much. Yeah, it has to be much higher.
I think more.
He will be your captain, and he's your star player. You do not want to give him away from less than like 600k pot at the least. Like you could probably get a good 800k for that player if you really push the boundaries. Like you have to push the boundaries, but you could really do it. And with that, you can get a good replacement. But the thing is, if he goes, we still have Evan Weir, who doesn't look as good, but still can be as good.
I like Evan Weir. I do. I think Evan Weir is a big one. Connor Barrett, do you think he'll still be with us in January, in the start of the season, Darren?
I think it's probably a bit too early for him to go. If I was probably looking at it from the perspective of a League One or Championship club to see how we go. Didn't have a great, it's his first season in league football. I think he threw, again, back to Sadler, threw over playing. He looked shattered the last couple of months. I'd be surprised if he were to go, to be honest with you. Allen, I think, will go. But Barrett, there might be a bit of interest, but I would be surprised with him. I think clubs would probably want to see another few months at him at league football, I think.
Yeah. Daz, what do you think? Jamie Jellish, think he's still going to be with us?
Yeah, well, yeah, I do. I think a few of them, the second half of the season will discourage people who are willing to throw a few quid at it. I think a number of them will be there. Just on Taylor Allen, I think you have a look at Hutchinson, and Hutchinson was as influential, if not more, than anybody the year before, and he moved up a division and really struggled. agents tend to go for the best offer, not necessarily the best decision.
Yeah.
Taylor Allen would do well to try and get a 3-year deal out of Walsall. I have to say.
Yeah.
With a release.
I think given what's happened, I think letting your best players go is a thing that Walsall have done a lot in the past. And so that's something we've got to be sort of wary of.
It's a test for Trevella as well, isn't it? It's a test that Bonsa always failed, or virtually almost always failed.
Oh, always, yeah.
It's a real test for Trevella in how they can deal with players that other teams want. I think we've gone a long time without really getting the best value we can. And I say, I think he'd do well to stay here, but that we would also, if he decides to leave, getting the right value for players is something that we need to improve on.
I think we're doing better at that, though.
Where?
Well, we're actually getting money for players now. Like that's
where?
But Isaac Hutchinson for one.
Yeah, but they sat in a fund forum and says we've got a pittance for him.
Yeah, they met his release clause, didn't they? Which wasn't
where have we done better?
Well, we used to just let players just walk away, hadn't we?
I think they will. I think they still will.
That's why I say it's a true test. You know,
I think 300,000 or 400,000. Then they'll, with a year left on his contract, I think he'll be off. Personally.
Yeah. I think I understand what Frankie's saying, but I don't think he's going to go for anywhere near that. I think 300,000. 300,000, they snatch his hand off. Players under discussions, Ryan Stirk. So, Phil, do you think we should try and keep Ryan Stirk, or do you think somebody else is going to come in and offer him more money and he's going to be gone anyway?
I think we should definitely try and keep him, but I would also think that he probably will get offers from elsewhere. And I think, again, it'll come down to what he wants to do. He'll have options, no doubt. But I think we should definitely try and keep him. I was pretty impressed with him last season. I thought he had a good season generally. I think, like a lot of other players, he maybe faded out a little bit towards the end of the season. But overall, I think he was an important player for us, and we should definitely try and keep him. I think there's other players that have been offered contracts too, which I'm a little bit more amazed by.
We get into those, Phil.
Oh no, we will. I'll keep my powder dry. But yeah, I'd like to see Ryan Stirk in a Walsall shirt next season.
Okay. Next one. I'll take the next one because it's an easy one. Sam Hornby. I think we'll probably be trying to get another keeper on loan. And obviously, George Barrett has been let go. I think we are trying to develop players. And we'd heard a lot about George Barrett. But with the signing of Jensen Kilroy, it seems like the new hope has moved to Jensen Kilroy rather than George Barrett. So it's a shame that George Barrett has just been dropped and let go, because we are trying to sort of build and develop players. But it is difficult for keepers, of course, to sort of get time. Sam Hornby, I don't think he's going to be one of the most expensive to sign up. So I think as a good backup keeper and somebody that can play as a starting keeper, I think he's a player that would be good to sign up. I don't think we'll have too much competition for him because of the game time he's had. So I think he's one that it'd be nice to sign up if he's happy to stay as potentially as a number 2. Next one, Liam Gordon. Frankie, can we keep Liam Gordon? Should we try and keep Liam Gordon? I put a video out earlier saying I think let him go. But I had comments disagreeing with that, saying I'm focused too much on the assists that he didn't get rather than his overall contribution. So what do you think, Liam Gordon, Frankie?
I quite like the guy because he's quite exciting to watch. But I think you try and get him I don't think there's it's about 50% chance that you do and you don't get him, because I think there are League One teams that will want to get him. I just don't think he might work out in League One under other clubs, because he's done it with Bolton and it didn't really work out here. He's a very good Walsall player. We don't seem to be able to get a good player in replacement. We don't usually see a player on his wing that has done well other than him. He since he came, he got injured. That was quite a strange situation. Then he came back and he played well the last 2 seasons. He wasn't as good as he was not last season, but the season before that. But not the season just gone, but the season before that one, where him and Isaac Hutchinson were the 2 best players in the team. And if we thought about losing him, it would have been a terrible thing. But if you can keep him, you keep him, because he is a cool player. He is weirdly an older player of this squad. And sometimes you need that. A player who's played at a few clubs, knows the level itself, or knows around the level. So if we do get promoted, he knows what we're doing. And then eventually when he's in his prime as well now. So when he's 30, you could eventually fade him out of the squad. But at the moment, he's playing decent football, so there's no reason not to try and go for him.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Does Albert Adoma?
I'd try and keep him. I don't think he's a starter. I think the same for Matt as well. Not necessarily to keep him, but I think the influence he has in the dressing room is as big as the influence he has on the football pitch. And managers need good influences in the dressing room. Probably, I don't know for sure, but I imagine that the one thing Dean Keats was missing when he was manager of Walsall was a few more positive influences in the dressing room, and I think Adoma brings that. He seems to understand the game as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he started doing coaching badges and getting into that side of it as well. He's looked after himself. I think he can influence on and off the pitch, but I don't see him as a starter.
I think with Albert Adoma, I think given the collapse this season, you'd have thought a player like Adoma would have sort of helped get people going and keep them going. So that's disappointing, really. He's a good, as you say, a great player to have in the dressing room. It's just a pity he wasn't able to help keep everybody together. I think it's a tough one. I think part of it as well depends on budget, doesn't it? So maybe because of his history, he's probably on a decent wage, I'd have thought.
I would say there's not going to be a lot of League Two or EFL clubs chasing Adoma. No. I'm guessing we're convenient for him, and I mean that. I don't mean that in a nasty way. I guess geographically we're convenient for him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's about the money for Adoma right now. I think it's about extending his career. I mean, he's on 99 goals. He needs.
He's desperately trying to get to 100. That lovely ball from Liam Gordon in the second half at Wembley. If Jammer had moved out the way, I think he'd have probably gone on the end of that. Jammer was offside and he sort of came back and got on his way when he would have been lunging for it, I think.
I'm sure he knows his value, but I'm not sure that the actual terms are going to be the most decisive thing on that one.
Yeah.
I'll add to the money. We lost Johnson as well. He's the biggest earner, so there's a lot there's a bit of money left if you need to.
Yeah. Darren, Jamil Matt. There's a rumour, as Phil quite rightly said, rumours sometimes are true, sometimes are complete fabrication. There's a rumour that Hensford want to take him and offer him more than we're offering him. So, I mean, is it time to move on from Jamil Matt anyway?
Yeah. I mean, I totally buy the, arguments of good in the dressing room, what have you. I think it's more of a case of who we've already got signed up and the other contracts that we're offered, which makes me think it's a bad idea. Because if you look at, we've got Josh Gordon, probably DJT, Levi, to add Matt and Adoma into that mix already as potentially 5 forwards, I find that incredible.
You got no wiggle room, have you?
No, well, do you know what it'll be? It'll be another striker in on loan. So,
Of course, that's what we expect, isn't it?
In January. Personally, I think it's time to celebrate. He's been a good, Walsall person, and he's, you can't fault the, what he's done in terms of his leadership and off the field and stuff like that. I think for us to progress and push on next season, I think we need to be saying goodbye. And it's not down to who he is as a person or anything. It's more who else we've got in the squad and the fact that he's given Adoma a deal and he plays him central. We can, we're not going into tactics now, but I think we saw when he played out wide against Chesterfield in that last couple of minutes when he was pulling out wide, that's where he should be playing. But I think the fact that we've given Adoma possibly a contract, DJT, Gordon, and Manchi.
Yeah, we haven't pinched them. We're going to them next.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a very good decision, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Where did the Hensford rumour come from?
I just saw it on Twitter, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently Hensford and Labadie's there, isn't he?
I saw Labadie was there, yeah.
Labadie.
Yeah. So we're matching up with him. Back to Phil as we continue the list. Harry Williams, do you think there's any chance that we'll sign him, or do you think he's gone? There was a rumour that Newcastle were interested. I don't know whether he needs somebody to reach the top shelf or not. I don't know. But
I'm not sure about that one, Simon, to be honest. Again, I'd be interested to know where you got that one from and where that came from. But
I'd love him to stay with us, but what do you think?
I can't see that one myself. But I think first and foremost, what happens with Harry Williams might be influenced by the injury that he picked up at Wembley. I've heard, again, rumours, but I've heard people suggesting that it was quite a serious injury and he could be out for a while, and that might change things. I think we've got a gem there in Harry Williams. I really do. I think he's a very good defender, and hopefully we can keep him. But again, I think there'll be other teams in for him, and we would struggle to keep him long term. But it would be nice to have him around for another couple of years. I think he's developing really well. I think he's a very, very solid defender. He's got potential to play at a higher level. So hopefully we'll keep him around. But again, I think there will certainly be other clubs in for him.
As you say, it depends on the injury. If it's like an ACL injury, then almost we don't want to keep him. But if it's just a niggle, go on. I'll let you jump in, Darren.
Just really quickly, I think another question that needs to be asked at the fans forum is where on earth was Harry Williams for that month as well.
Yeah,
that's what we need the answer to.
Well, there's a rumour, again, rumours like total garbage, a lot of them, but that he'd signed for Newcastle and they didn't want him to play.
If he's signed for Newcastle, I need to get myself the same agent, because I'm in my late 50s, I'm overweight, injury prone, but I reckon he could get me a club if he can get Newcastle.
I'm liking that. Who's next? Phil next. Ronan Mayer. What's the story?
Another player who I think falls into the category of others who's been undervalued and underused. I think in the last season. I'll go back to the start of last season when he came on at Blackburn in the League Cup, and he had a really great little cameo. Came on for 20 minutes, scored a goal, and was part of a front three, and looked really useful. And I thought, great, this is going to be his breakthrough season, and he'll get more opportunities. And I think, having him as a player coming off the bench to change games, I think that would have been his role for that season, but it never materialised. And the same thing again for this season. He's only really been used in cup games. We've hardly seen him at all in the league. He's played a few cup games, and for what it's worth, I think he's done quite well in the cup games that he's played. I thought he had a a pretty good game against Leicester in the League Cup, but we've hardly seen him since. And my question would be, what's the point of giving him a new contract if they're not going to play him more? If they're going to give him a new contract, but play him. I know that sounds blindingly obvious, but what is the point of giving him a new contract if they're just going to do what they've done with him for the last 2 years?
The difference between League Two and National League is not massive, and he's done really well for Tamworth. Did great for Rush Hall as well. On my Twitter page, I've got a clip of I think it's hit about 50,000 views of Ram ripping Darlington apart, and that kind of close control is what we're missing. It's that kind of quality. Like against Wimbledon, who are tough defensively, you needed that kind of player to unlock teams, and it'll be absolute criminal if Walsall don't sign him up. But I think other people will be interested in him because people who watch the National League a lot and they've seen what he's capable of.
I think as well, Simon, a lot of it's going to come down to how he's feeling about it. I mean, is he really going to want to stay for more of the same under Matt Sadler? Surely there's a big part of Ronan Mayer that's thinking, I need to get away somewhere I'm going to play regularly.
But Matt Sadler has said, yeah, we've got to protect Ronan Mayer and manage him and that sort of thing. That's what he said before. But like, he's still, I know he's only just gone 20, but I mean, at 20, surely it's time. Darren, Daz, you got something to say?
He needs to be playing somewhere. I've made my feelings about Maya many times. You know, I think there's something there. I think he's been criminally underused. A lot of people were kind of knocking him, but none of us have seen him play for a year effectively. I'd spin it the other way. If you were Ronan Mayer, why would you want to sign for us?
Well, that's a damning question. Go on, Darren.
I think they've offered him a contract just for compensation purposes.
Political.
The thing is, we try, like, for a club of our size to progress, you got to develop your own players. And yes, through the loan network, which, as myself and Frankie saw and heard on the Academy Spotlight, we're not going to have a youth team. We're not going to have a reserve team. When they got the young players to a certain point, we're going to send them out on loan to gain experience, and that is the model we're using, and we've used that with Ronan Mayer.
Who was the last youth player we bought through?
They'll tell you Ronan Mayer.
Okay.
They'll tell you it's Ronan Mayer, but he's not come through, has he?
Morris.
Liam Kinsella, I think he's probably the one.
Or Kieran Morris. I think past that.
I can think
Kinsella, Morris, and Henry came through at the same time, didn't they?
Yeah. I think we had Alfie Bates and Sam Perry, didn't we? Who sort of looked like they were going to do something at one point, but then both faded out pretty quickly. But yeah, there's not been a lot.
Ronan Mayer, 2 Football League starts for Walsall, 4 League Cup starts, and 6 Mickey Mouse Cup starts, I guess. A few substitute appearances. I don't think you can say you've bought a player through there.
No.
I think you got to go back. You can go back 10 years for a player we bought through, off the top of my head.
Well, as Frankie will tell you, from the Academy Spotlight, they admitted, didn't they, Frankie, that effectively the youth system had pretty much closed down for about 5 or 6 years, hadn't he?
Yeah, they said that in Ronan Mayer's year, him and Barrett were the only ever 2 good players that actually that should play football. They said that, honestly, they were quite blatant with that. And they said that the group coming through this year looked like they could actually do it. And looking at Rag, who's played
Charlie
great.
Rag, yeah.
Fingers crossed, hope he comes well, because we need a striker, and nothing would be better than a striker from our youth academy. But what we've seen from May, I don't see Rag ever getting his chance.
And Dylan Thomas, is he first team ready?
Who knows? Because we send them out on loan, and then they rot away back in our academy, which is like, it's good and all. We didn't have any competitions just to randomly throw them into this season, and hopefully next season that means that everything we get to throw them into games, and a lot of the youth. It should be that the youth academy kids that are going to get sent on loan, they all get played every so often in a whatever the Venerati, whatever it's called now. So they got to do that.
Yeah. Next player. Who was I up to next? Priestley Farquharson. Who wants to take that one? Go on, Phil.
Why is my only question for that one. Look, Priestley Farquharson is a good player, and I think we've missed him because he can play. He can, from what I've seen of him as a defender, I've been impressed. But what was it? 3 games last season. I think it was Tranmere away, wasn't it, that he got injured and we didn't see him again. The season before wasn't much better. And I've actually got his sort of career stats up on my phone at the moment. Okay. He's only played 21 league games for us since he signed, and that's in 2 years. At Newport County, before he signed for us, he played 54 league games in 2.5 seasons for them. So you're talking about a player who, and it's not just in his time with us. You're talking about a player who averages less than 20 league games a season. It's not enough, unfortunately. It's not enough. I was really, really surprised when I saw that they'd offered him a new contract, or that they were having discussions with him. He's injury prone, and I remember actually, Simon, when we signed him, you did a thing with Gabriel Sutton, and he actually made that point before he'd even kicked a ball for us. He said, "Look, he's obviously a strong defender, but he's had injury problems, and he doesn't play a lot of games." And unfortunately, that's been the case for him since he's been at the club. It's a shame because he can clearly play, but I don't think we can afford to risk having a player who's probably going to be on decent wages for the level.
Yeah, I think that's part of the issue as well, isn't it? If he was on the lower end of wages, then you'd think, oh yeah, maybe it's worth the risk.
Well, I saw someone put something on there saying about I'd get him on a pay-as-you-play deal. He might have to get a bar job or something else if that's going to be the case, because he's not going to. I don't mean, but he really. I don't see the sense in that one. I think it's too big a risk with a player with his injury record.
Can I just jump in on that one?
Yeah, go on.
I think that it's not just about finance, this one, and I think whether it's low salary and high appearance fees, or his salary reflects the fact he hasn't played much, is one thing. You can't build a back 4 or back 5 around a player who only plays 20 games a season. And if we were to kind of go into a season where he would be first choice like he was this season again, and he breaks down again, I think you have to ask serious questions, and I think that's going to put a lot of teams off as well as not necessarily us, but I think there's an issue not just around finance, but in the fact you can't
rely on him.
Squad around somebody that misses so many games.
I think for the same reason Jack Earing has been released, and for the same reason Rory Holden was released, Priestley should have gone the same direction. Superb players, all three, but unless you can rely on them and you're going to get games out of them, it's with a budget that we know is relatively tight. You can't be wasting your money. You can't be wasting your budget on a player who's probably only going to play 10, 15 games if you're lucky. You just can't do that.
The thing is, as well, if he does probably gets injured within the first 10 games, it's going to be another stick to beat the club with. Like, why have you given him a contract as well? So, the probability suggests, as Phil said, with those appearances, he probably will get injured at some point. But I'd rather have had Daniels on the year, to be honest with you. As we talked about having leaders off the field.
Well, it's that continuity. Stephen said that on our video.
If it was between them, I'd have got rid of them both personally. But if it was between the two, I think it's the other way around if you're looking at experience. But I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Doesn't make a lot of sense. As you say, as much as he's a great player, but he's only great if he's on the pitch. Final one on the ones up for discussion. Douglas James Taylor. Phil.
What's the situation with him? Is he under contract with us, or what? Have we offered it? Sorry,
I think he's out of contract.
Right.
Out of contract at the moment. He's just coming up. I think out of contract in July. I think. So he's currently. I think he's more likely to sign for Drogheda than sign for us.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I mean, I haven't personally seen him play for well over a year now. And I know he's had a decent loan spell at Drogheda. He's got a few goals there. How he's developed,
15 in 15 he scored.
Okay, how he's developed as a player, and whether that makes him good enough to come back into a League Two side, I'd have my doubts on that. I wasn't particularly impressed with him first time around, but he may have come on, he may have improved, he may have got better, but I wouldn't be too keen on hanging my hat on him as a
no. I think that's fair enough. Season. I think the feedback I've got is he's beefed up a little bit, so he's got a bit more strength to him now, but he's still got the same pace and finishing ability. As I said earlier, I think he would have been a massive addition rather than Ellis Harrison for the second half of the season. And here's a question: going into the playoffs, Ellis Harrison got announced by MK Dons that he'd been released, but then he never featured for Walsall. So why was that? Any idea, anybody? No. You thought if he'd just been released, he'd want to be showcasing himself and getting on the pitch, but he dropped out of the squad completely, didn't he?
I think Sadler brought him in after he got injured. He started, didn't he? Or I can't even remember who it was against now. And then he was just bombed out, clearly not fit or right. And I think Sadler just didn't fancy him. I think it was simple as that, really.
That's a difficult one. And an interesting comment from somebody about the loans that had ended. Does that mean they're going back? It's like, yeah, that's the way it works. Trying to sign players that we've had on loan. George Hall, you wouldn't want to put your belt on him, would you? With his injury record.
I think it's more
not that I think we'd get him anyway.
He'll play in League One next year or the back to Blues or something. He won't be coming back here.
No. Nathan Asimwe's got another year on his contract. But I think with already having Connor Barrett in that position, it depends what happens with Liam Gordon, of course. But if Liam Gordon went, maybe it'd be worth having a little cheeky bid for that. Tommy Simpkin, no chance that he's coming back. Darius Lipswick, I don't know who he is anyway. Ethan Wheatley, obviously not. Ellis Harrison. Would we be interested in getting Ellis Harrison back here? Anybody?
No.
No. Time to move on. Go on, Frankie.
You said with us in weight, we already have two good players. We should have three quality. The way we play our style of football means that if we play two full-backs, as we saw, wing-backs, as we saw as the season just gone, we lose it. So why can't we have three so that it can all get interchanged at any point? And then if you bring in a some weight, you have three great quality wing-backs. That when one gets tired, you bring one in, and then if you have three quality, a Sinway can play left and right, meaning that say Liam Gordon's out and he got a bit tired, or he's trying to rest players. It means that if they all play the same amount of games, they really shouldn't be that tired at the end of the season. And that's probably why we want someone like a Sinway.
Just to comment on that, I think you're quite right. I think yes, generally you need two players for every position, but for wing back, it is such a demanding role. I think having somebody like a Simway who can cover both is sort of a very valid comment. Rusty Sadler's mentioning here, Wheatley needed 5 or 6 games, didn't get them. I certainly think with Ethan Wheatley, we just dropped him way too soon. And I think he'd have loved Wembley, wouldn't he?
We'll never know.
We'll never know. Bit of sarcasm.
Rusty makes a good point, but I question his attitude. I do. I think that Kane had got a different attitude. I think Wheatley gave up on it.
Yeah, I think when he came off against Salford, I understand that. But I mean, if you'd been pampered since the age of 9 and then suddenly thrown into League 2 where you get pushed off the ball every time you get near it, you can understand it take a little bit to get used to that. I like Matt's comment. Heard there's a good prospect at Stoke called Lipswick. We should take a look. The thing is, this is what I love about Walsall fans. Even in the darkest moments, we've got sort of a little bit of lightheartedness. That's the Black Country spirit. Comment about DJT from Chris Evans. Please don't give him another chance. They gambled on Wheatley. As good as low.
DJT is 23. So go back to Darren's previous comment.
Pin sticker's taking the piss now, I think. DJT's off to Newcastle. Oh dear. Sorry, Daz, go on.
DJT is 23, so there may well be a bit of politics in that one as well.
Yeah.
Be interesting if Drogheda did sign him, or Drogheda did sign him, what they paid for him. That would be interesting.
Yeah. But I think DJT, it's one of those, because of his age, there'll be he can't walk away, can he? And if we've offered him a contract, there'll be compensation and that sort of stuff. But a compensation from Drogheda, if he signs for Drogheda, that would be an interesting one. Troy Allen saying we didn't invest properly in January because there was no way we wouldn't be promoted. The thing is, was there no budget left? That's possible, isn't it? We can't afford to send Levi out on loan if Matt signs. Then we got him. And so-called Josh Gordon, who for me is an out-and-out striker. I think it's going out of control now. Just bringing it back. Our season from mid-January is a joke, totally not a joke, and that's on Sadler. Sorry, but that's spot on. DJ was treated really bad. Yeah. I think DJ is going to score against us next season. You just know it. If he's in League 2, he's going to score against us, isn't he?
I mean, the biggest
on one of those podcasts when he's retired. Sadler just didn't rate him or whatever. How can you not rate somebody? This is my confusion. How can you not rate somebody who's got a better goals per 90 minutes than any other person in the division? How can he do that?
We'll find out while we're in the wash, I think.
But it's more than goals, isn't it? He wants somebody who'll lead the line, who'll be mobile, he'll kind of receive it and move it on. It's he just didn't fit. I kind of get why he didn't start. What I don't understand is why there was no alternative plan to include him, or why they're still hung on to him in January. They could have got that off the wage bill and brought somebody else in. There's a number of things around that don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's madness. The
I just read that.
Yeah, Will Grigg in the World Cup. Yeah.
Sorry for talking over everything. Going back to the semi-final, having to watch Will Grigg be the only Chesterfield player on the pitch and having to have him kick off, and then that kind of petulant launching of the ball into the hotel car park. I loved that. That was magnificent to watch. I particularly enjoyed him having to do that.
Oh, he could have ordered a plan B from teammate. We got the jokes coming out now. The DJ was a disgrace. Oh dear. Comley, blame me. What's this? Comley was the odd one for me. Hardly seen him for months. Then just restored to the bench for the playoffs. Oh, I don't understand.
Thought he did a good job against Chesterfield.
Yeah,
He did. He did. Also had a problem all season, clearing balls, rebounding into the area. Yeah, that was terrible. He took Jellis off. He was our best player, says Chris. Yeah, that was a strange one when he took Jellis off, wasn't he?
He certainly Jamie Jellis didn't agree with the decision from his reaction when he was taken off. I think that was fairly obvious to see. I mean, you've got to say, I mean, if you go through them player for player in the playoff final, how many players would you actually say had a good, decent to good game? There wasn't many. No, there wasn't many.
I think getting back to what we were talking about before, the midfield and the January not replacing the two injured players in midfield. If you go back, Harrogate was the point where George Hall got back in the side and Chang appeared around about the same time, not exactly the same time. From Harrogate up until Wembley, and it doesn't include Wembley, in every single game, he took the two number 8s off and replaced the two number 8s. So if you want to go back to January and why didn't we sign number 8s, the minute he got two viable options at number 8, he went back to rotating them.
Yeah.
And January, that's a real serious question for me, why we didn't do that in January.
And it's coming back to Rowan Mayer again. He just can't write Rowan Mayer, and I just don't understand it really. I can't understand Edward Atkins. Can't understand offering Jama and DJT a new contract. Jama Levi, DJT, and Flash. That wouldn't inspire you, would it?
And Albert.
And Albert Adom. Yeah, who's not a striker. We were playing up front.
But I would pay to watch Darren's face on the opening day of the season when he looks at the Twitter of our lineup. You've got those three playing up front. I'd pay more to watch Darren's face than I would to pay to get.
I'll come and stand by you for that one. I'd have some sort of PTSD.
Yeah, Simon. I just I know obviously we're coming towards the end now, but just like from what everyone said and from what the comments that we've seen and from the stuff that there's been on social media in the last week or so, is there anyone left who's got confidence in Matt Sadler being able to build a team that could potentially go up next season, bearing in mind what happened in the second half of last season? My fear is this, that it looks like they are going to back him. They're going to give him another go next season. People will have their own opinions about that, but that looks like what they're going to do, and they're still mentioning this steady incremental progress stuff that they'll use that to say, well, we have improved the last two seasons in terms of our league finish, which we have, but my fear for next season is we got off to a poor start. I think if we get off to a poor start next season, the toxicity in the stadium will be on another level. And they might find themselves in a position where they have to chop him after 10 or 15 games. And then we're going to be left with trying to find a new manager with a squad of players that aren't theirs. And we kind of get back into that cycle that we were trying to get out of for years. I'd just be interested to know what other people think of that. I mean, we haven't discussed Matt Sadler that much tonight, but I've got my own opinions of him. There was a Twitter poll recently which said that there was 86% of supporters wanted him gone. So it seems as though the support for him is dwindling. And I'd just be interested to know what the others think. You know, do we have confidence in him to be able to put together a side next season that's going to challenge for promotion?
It's difficult to continue with Matt Sadler. Yes, he's on he's had a new 3-year contract. But I mean, as my buddy said, Gary O'Neill at Wolves had just had a new contract and they sacked him. It's where's the confidence going to come from? That's the big question. Where's the confidence in the fan base that we're going to have a good season? Where's that going to come from? Because Matt Sadler has twice, because remember the season before, we were right on the edge of the playoffs and then fell off a cliff in the last 4 or 5 games. And then obviously fell off the cliff way earlier this time. But where's the confidence that Matt Sadler can get us there?
I haven't got any. I think with me as well, I think it's not just him as well. If you look at all the contracts that we've handed out, I mean, it's still like 19 or 20 players of the squad of last season who finished last season, coupled with the tact. I find the football from January onwards, I cannot stand it personally. This hoof it to Jammer, watch him have a wrestle, and then look for the knockdowns. I can't stand that. But from what's happened, thing is as well, if they've backed him now and they persist with him, there'll be questions for Trivella, right? Like if it starts badly next season, he will be gone. No question, in my opinion. Yeah. Barrow was the time to chop him after Barrow, and they didn't do it.
I think it was quite difficult because I understand what people are saying, but I think despite the bad run we were on, when we were still top of the league, it's hard to justify sacking a manager when you're top of the league.
It's not when you've not won for 13 games.
Mm.
I'm not a Matt Sadler. I support Walsall Football Club. I don't support Matt Sadler FC. I want us to get promoted.
Yeah. The thing is, we talked about, I think we sort of drawing it close. Incremental improvement. Well, finishing 4th and losing in a playoff final. There's only one improvement point from that, and that's promotion next season. So it's absolutely promotion next season, or this incremental progress thing drops through the floor, doesn't it?
Incremental there's a get out in that though, in the statement. Incremental progress is not a straight line.
Yeah.
Oh, they did say that, didn't they? Yeah.
That's in there. I'm going to contradict myself a little bit. What would I do is different maybe to what I'm going to say now. But whoever the manager is in August, we've got to get behind him. And I know that's a difficult thing to swallow and a difficult thing to say. But what would the other 23 clubs in League Two want us to be doing in August? And that is tearing ourselves to bits. And whoever it is, just need to get behind them. I know that's going to be difficult, but we need to stick together.
Yeah, I think that's the key. I think that's it. I'm glad you've made that point, Daz, because at the end of the day, we're Walsall fans, and yes, we're hurting, but we've got to back our team. And as much as we'll disagree with lots of things, the time to raise that frustration and those deep questions is during the fans forum. It is a pity that the fans forum date that we were expecting around about February, March time didn't happen. So I wonder why that was cancelled. Because
just on that though, I think the fans have actually been quite patient up until the last couple of games. You look at the atmosphere at Chesterfield and stuff.
Yeah,
we really got behind him, right? Like I honestly think we did. We had that. Was it the Accrington game? I think it was the Accrington game when we allowed Sadler out chance, which a little bit understandable, I think. But I honestly think that we will. We'll get over. I think it's a good thing that we've got a 3-month gap or whatever it is before we 10 weeks, whatever it is, before we start the season. A little bit of that pain will be dissipated. I think we will. When we come to that first game, if it's home or away, we'll take loads away, or we'll have a decent home crowd, and we'll get behind them. I think if it's after 5, 10, 15 games where any anger will come back out, and I think it will be quick. And I think it's probably just a reaction to this generational failure. Like I can understand why people would be quick to jump, but I think from that first game, people will be supportive. It's just if it goes downhill, I think.
I think I did a video on the Walsall Supporters Club letter, and in that it sort of I question the accuracy of it. But is it just Walsall and Colchester that have not had a promotion in whatever many years of the whole of the EFL clubs?
Yep.
There's only Walsall and Colchester. So you know who's going to win the league next year, don't you?
They're on the up. They've got Crowley, who we could have signed. Yeah. They've got a good team. So it's a manager we could have had if we wanted to. That's also another truth. There's the rumours, right?
That's Oldham, who got promoted today. That's their first promotion in 34 years. So we're not alone.
We're not alone. Yeah. We've all had, the thing is we call it the joy and the pain for a reason. Some people have suggested I change it to the pain and the pain. But the first half of the season was definitely joy, and last season, if we ignore, which is impossible to do, if we ignore February onwards, what a great team we were, and what joy we had, and we just want that back. We just want it for a full season. But I'm going to plug my mate's book again, Keith Holmes, the history of Walsall, 1966 to 1980. I started reading through this, and it talks about we're sort of having a good half season, and that's over the years. That's been Walsall. How many years have we had a good half or a bad half?
Have a look at.
Sorry,
Dad. Look at 67, 68.
That's probably similar, isn't it?
Yeah.
we start off bad and then get it together. And then what my friend Adam says, you can judge Walsall on what they do in January. And again and again.
We have awful Januaries, don't we?
Januaries have not been great, is it? Right then, well, we'll be having a break. We'll be having a break at the end of June. So we'll have no fan chat on the end of June. But then we'll be back in July. We might get 2 in, depending on what we're doing. But definitely have some chat around the fan chat, the fans forum rather, and the new signings and that. So thanks very much for your time, gentlemen. And I love these fan chats. They're very popular. Lots of debate, and we just want to be celebrating promotion, don't we? Final word from Phil.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, Simon. Yeah, I enjoy the fan chats as well. And at the end of the day, all we do, we're just giving our opinions for what they're worth, and I really enjoy the chats that we have. So thank you for that, and just to all the Walsall fans out there, just have a great summer. Stay happy if you can, stay healthy, and I'll see you all again at the start of August, because I'm going to be there no matter what.
That's it. We're here, won't we? I'm here for the joy and the pain. Frank, final words.
Thanks for listening to the five people's opinions that don't really matter. And
what are you trying to say?
Speak for yourself.
And we go for the worst. We've had a terrible season, but when we do get promoted, and that might take 10 or so years, but when we do get that promotion, it will mean 10 times more than it would have meant I went to Wembley. It will be the best moment probably you'll ever feel, because the amount of pain that we have suffered. So how many times we've had, so how many bad seasons we have, that promotion will mean everything. And that's what you've got to remember. There's always light at the end of the tunnel.
That's it. And Daz, quick question for you. Would it have been better for Walsall to have gone up? Everybody, if Walsall went up and come straight back down again, would that have been worse? Or would you have still preferred to have gone up?
Well, it's still gone up. But it's still gone up.
Final word, Daz.
Generationally, we needed something for people to cling on to. I'm going to go. Sorry for keep going on. I was in the Torch before the game on Saturday, and the demographic of Walsall supporters has changed a bit. A lot more younger people than they used to be. I think the kind of the free tickets for kids is beginning to pay off.
Yeah.
But it also means that there's a lot of people that haven't seen us do anything, and the sooner everybody sees what success looks like, the better. In terms of what we were talking about before I jumped in, thanks to everyone who kind of comments at the bottom and kind of joins in with these. I think there's some really good stuff in terms of comments that come through. And thanks to everybody who's so kind when they see me at games. This is a big Walsall family, and thanks to everyone.
Nice one. Thanks for that. Darren?
Yeah, just to echo everyone else, just thank you so much for putting these on. You know, it's no small feat to have running a channel and getting that content out there. So just, I think from all of us and all the Walsall fans, thank you so much for doing this every year. And we'll be there, you know, in July and August. I'm sure we'll be having a laugh. But just to thank you, and hope you all have a nice summer. Yeah,
nice one. Yeah, same from me, really. I think the channel's grown massively over the last couple of years, and it's a real community now. It's a real community of fans that we sort of come together, and particularly with these fan chats, as Daz says, there's some really good comments in there. We've got a bit of humour in there as well, which we all need at some points. But yeah, have a good summer and enjoy the break. We come back fresh and back our team. Nice one.